शिवम, हेलो,
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you now.
सत्यव्रत, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
सत्यव्रत,
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, ma'am.
सत्यव्रत,
Yes, ma'am.
am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am,
ma'am.
you are audible, ma'am.
सोहम,
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
ओके ओके, ये साउंड स्लो था. ठीक.
Welcome back, dear students. We are going to start the second session of consciousness. As we covered in the first session about the definition, the science behind consciousness, how a particular profession has explained the meaning of consciousness, then how we can correlate the ancient consciousness and the modern consciousness. Today we'll be going with the types of consciousness. The types of consciousness is also a parameter which can be explained on the basis of science and on the basis of yogic view. So modern view and yogic view. Today, let me first explain you on the yogic view. The first parameter comes is Ishwar.
Have you completed this video?
Consciousness is called Ishwar. What is that?
मैम वीडियो शो नहीं हो रहा है मैम.
Show नहीं हो रहा, ma'am.
मैम
The
स्क्रीन
thought
शेयर
process you have.
Sound आ रहा है, video नहीं,
स्क्रीन
ma'am.
शेयर करिए मैम.
A kind of a Maya, which is surrounding the entire universe as we believe. So your belief,
क्या बोल रहे हो?
Ma'am, screen share ही नहीं हुआ, ma'am. सिर्फ sound आ रहा है, video नहीं दिख रहा.
यस मैम.
ओ अच्छा, ठीक है ठीक है.
in Ishwar is a type of consciousness, something which is not existing, but all of us are assuming that it is existing. Ishwar is somewhere and
Now the video
not
is
seeing
audible.
that particular thing or
Yes, ma'am.
particular person, not having any kind of a view about the particular thing, we are assuming that in our consciousness. So Ishwar relates to Chetan. Then comes Jiva. Jiva means that is also a part of your Chetan, okay? And Jiva means the Atma, which you are. That also speaks about the consciousness. Then
Ma'am, the sound is gone.
हेलो साहू.
हाँ, sound नहीं आ रहा ना?
नो मैम.
Ma'am, sound नहीं आ रहा.
साउंड नहीं आ रहा है.
मैम आपने साउंड को ऑफ
मैम
कर
आप
लिया।
अनम्यूट होइए
देखिए
मैम
मैम,
मैम
मैम
आप
वहाँ पर
अनम्यूट हो
ऊपर देखिए
जाइए।
मैम। मैम वहाँ पर योर स्क्रीन शेयरिंग में आपने माइक को ऑफ कर दिया मैम। ऊपर मैं देख लीजिए वो माइक ऑन करके।
आप
मैम
अनम्यूट होइए मैम।
इसमें वहाँ पर जो आपने साउंड
साउंड नहीं आ रहा है?
नो मैम साउंड नहीं आ रहा था।
साउंड नहीं आ रहा था
The
No,
अभी?
Srishti,
अब आ रहा है।
Iti,
हाँ
etc.
नहीं नहीं,
Then
ये ना
comes
नेटवर्क स्लो
Prameya.
हो जाता है
That
बीच
is the
बीच में।
consciousness
मैम आपने म्यूट
which is
कर आप म्यूट करने से
subject to
साउंड
a
भी म्यूट हो
knowable
जाता है।
object, a knowable thing. That is called the Prameya.
क्या बोल रहे हो?
मैम आप अपना माइक ऑफ कर देंगे तो साउंड भी म्यूट हो जाता है।
ओ अच्छा ठीक है।
यस मैम।
म्यूट होने से नहीं हो रहा है। बोल ले, ऐसा
Then
तो होता
comes
है।
Prema. Prema is the most vital part of consciousness, and it has no form, nothing,
ये
but it is a belief. It is just like a Maya, a hallucination, the thing which is being covered by all other aspects of consciousness. If we consider this consciousness in the modern view, then Ned Block is a person who has analyzed critically the various aspects of consciousness. And according to him, consciousness is of two types. One is the phenomenal consciousness, another one is access consciousness. So these two consciousness are being explained by P consciousness and A consciousness. So what is phenomenal consciousness? Phenomenal consciousness mostly covered with a moving object. It's colored form of the sound which is arising around you, the sensation that is coming inside you, my emotion, your emotion, the feeling which we have, all together it is creating the phenomenal consciousness. Then coming to the access consciousness, it is the phenomena that informs us about our mindset. What kind of mindset we are
Ma'am, you are not audible.
मैम
Excuse me, ma'am.
it is only available with a human being, which enlighten the human being from a lower stage to a higher stage. When people think of that in my life, whatever I am seeing, this Maya, whatever I am seeing, my surrounding, life is above that. So that kind of a conscious mind gives rise to a consciousness that is called cosmic. In the cosmic world, that consciousness exists. When we are thinking of what are the things through which our consciousness is being divided, then there are points mostly which are being divided into 7 different categories, which will degrade our consciousness. Bija Jagrata, first one, the root waking. That means if a person is highly sensitive, highly awakened, and each and every action, each and every process which is taking place around the person, he is aware of that. That is called the Bija Jagrata. So this kind of attitude has a negative impact on your consciousness. Then Jagrata, that means a person is waking. In the waking sense, the consciousness won't work much because the mind, it concentrates within the world, the surrounding, my pen, my bag, my work, I will eat, my food, my dress, everything the person is surrounded with in the Jagrata position. Then Mahajagrata, great waking. In that case, what happens? Generally, the person almost lose the concept of consciousness in self. Then Jagrata Swapna, that means a person is in a waking stage but is dreaming. So that stage always degrade your consciousness. Then comes Swapna, then Swapna Jagrata, and last one is Shushupti, that means sleep. Sleep also has got a negative impact on the consciousness. Okay, then let me explain you one by one. When the self, due to the thin veil of ignorance, joins the chitta, mind stuff. In a causal plane, this stage is called the root waking. Because your chitta, your thought process is ignorance with the root, the world process. Okay, and this is the first stage of ignorance, which takes place in case of almost all of us in different situations. Then comes the second phase, which is being self-guided, and gradually it develops in the mind and it brings certain sense. Due to the emerging of sense into your mind process, slowly the consciousness decreases and the person becomes Jagrata, waking. In a waking sense, as I told you, we are concerned about the surrounding things. We never think of what is there in our mind. Okay. So that sense is called, or that stage is called the Jagrata. Then comes Mahajagrata. In Mahajagrata sense, what happens? The person slowly enters into a spiritual world, leaving everything that I am nothing, I have no existence, nothing I have, everything is God is creating, Almighty is doing, my surrounding, people doing. So that is called the state of Mahajagrata. Similarly, waking dream, that is a Jagrata Swapna, which is the person unable to cope up with the reality of the daily life and they started living in dream. Suppose myself, I am thinking of that I will become a Karodpati. Okay, so I started living in my dream. So my brain is concentrating around my dream, which I am seeing in a awakened position. I am awake, but I am seeing a dream. I am thinking of that I'll become so rich, I'll be having a car, I'll be putting plenty of gold, I'll be having a house, I'll be having this, I'll be having that. So that is called waking dream. And that kind of a dream has a very drastic impact on your consciousness. It started degrading your consciousness. Then comes the third one, the fifth stage of ignorance, which is called the sleep, the final one, the sleep, in which your entire consciousness comes to a stage of stability. It becomes almost stable, zero. And you live in a state where you are not aware of what is happening around you, what is happening to your body. You are completely detached from your physical and mental sense. These are all about the different stages of your degradation of consciousness. Then, if we analyze what is the scientific approach which the scientist, the psychologist, they explained about consciousness. Okay, so let me explain you. According to the scientific approach, consciousness means focus on mental or psychological correlation to the state of consciousness. Their presence or absence reduced to measurement or statistical analysis. And if we take into consideration this consciousness, slowly, if we study that one, we can come to know what is the parameter which is taking place, what are the processes that is taking place in your brain. Some people explain that consciousness can be a parameter to be studied through different experiments. In the term of classical physics and modern quantum physics, both the things if you take into consideration, then as these two are having theories which are contradicting each other, similarly, mindset and consciousness, according to the modern scientific approach, are two different aspects. Mind or your brain, it is thinking something, it is a process which is carried out in your brain, but consciousness is something beyond your brain, beyond your process, beyond your mindset. It is something which is there in your mind, which is surrounding your brain, but it is not the process taking place in your brain. Then when this consciousness was considered as a research topic, then what happened exactly? Nobody could properly establish the objective of the experiment. Method. How to carry out the experiments with relation to the consciousness. And there are a group of neuroscientists and psychologists who started calling them as the pioneer of this conscious study. They told that by correlating the neurological processes taking place in a human brain, and by correlating the fact a psychologist is representing, if we mix these two, then we may come to a point where we can very well explain what is called the consciousness. Then with different modern scientific investigations, it is being understood that in case of the psychologist, they started explaining the trauma, the illness, or the drug. Okay, these are the things which alters our consciousness. And with different scientific approach, when we started analyzing the basis of consciousness, we could identify that the concept of consciousness with the experiment which are reported with respect to the human being are quite logical. And secondly, the concept of consciousness, which is developed by the neurologist and medical practitioner, that is matching to the data which.
Sorry, students. My network connection is very poor, unstable.
Yes, ma'am. Was
Through the study by different psychologists. Then comes a major part of scientific literature on consciousness that helps to establish the relationship between the reported data and the theoretical data. And altogether, the neural memory, neural networking getting slowly correlated to the consciousness of a person. Then different machineries came into existence, which could study the functioning of brain and which could explain different parts of consciousness. Mostly, many of you must be knowing, there is a machine called EEG. Okay, what is EEG? Another machineries is there, MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. Okay, so these machineries, they exactly give the image of your brain. And if you consider the EEG pattern, in EEG what happens? When you are sleeping, which type of wave your brain is liberating? That can be studied with the help of EEG. It is very interesting to know there are different types of waves like beta wave, gamma wave, alpha wave. These are getting generated from the human brain. When the person is sleeping, then when a person is seeing a dream, when the person is awake. When mostly the person is awake, alpha rays are generated from the brain and the mind remains very disturbed. But when we go to the sleeping stage, then beta and gamma ray comes into existence. And slowly, if you are going to a very deep sleep, even beta ray becomes suppressed, only gamma ray exists over there. And this pattern of different sleep and which kind of ray it is generating, which kind of wave it is generating, it is being studied by this EEG machine. It has been observed that in the brain, the primary visual cortex, it produces several electrical waves. Several electrical waves are being produced, and these electrical waves, somehow your MRI or even EEG process is not capable of capturing. So generally what is being done, the psychologist, they just explained through medical science that there are different drugs which are having notable effect on the consciousness. These drugs, what it does, it just dulls your awareness. That means if somebody is taking some medicine, some drugs, some sedative somebody is taking, then the mind becomes dull and it has a tremendous impact on your consciousness. And slowly what happens, when your mind becomes dull, so what will happen? Then with due process, your secondary sensing power increase. Secondary sensing power increasing means your consciousness is increasing. That's why you people must have seen many of the saint and all, they somehow take some amount of sedatives in due course of time. Sometimes, not much. Okay. And with this kind of a study, it is being clearly observed that the generation of these electric waves becomes more when the mind remains in a dull stage. Okay. Then the brain mechanism, which is taking place in due course of studying your consciousness, it is so far not very well understood what exactly is happening inside your brain. Nobody could say properly, though scientific research has been carried out, many research publications are there, many people have explained, many saints have explained, many psychologists have explained, many reformers have explained that this is the term psychology. You can very well understand this in this way. You take the example of Gautam Buddha. He was the person sitting below a tree. Many animals were coming to him, but neither tiger nor a lion, nobody was just eating him out. What was the reason behind? Because the wave, the mindset which he was having, the wave which was produced by him, by his mindset, by his consciousness, it was making an aura around him, seeing which the other person, his mind also get reflected, seeing that aura, and some kind of a conscious sense comes to that particular animal. And you people must have, sometimes you people must have realized this, that we are arguing with somebody. Today I decided I'll go and shout at my friend. But suddenly, when I appear in front of my friend, then all the anger, all the excitement in me, all the kind of aggressiveness in me, all will vanish. That person will greet me with a great smile. So what happens in this one? This is nothing but the rise in consciousness. Seeing that person happy, seeing that the mindset of that person, seeing that the consciousness of that person, slowly the consciousness inside my mind started awakening. I started realizing that though I am getting angry, though I am in a mood to attack that person, to hurt that person, but practically, if I'm hurting that person, something bad may happen to me. So this kind of a realization is called the self-consciousness. Okay, and there are different types of physiological changes which is being evidenced by different researchers, and many of the yogis and many of the scientists, they have shown that consciousness can be uplifted by controlling your mind. Mind is the base. For example, I'll tell you, let's go to Switzerland. Immediately, with a fraction of a second, you will find yourself in Switzerland. You are not going by person. It is your mind who is bringing you to Switzerland. It is in a very distant place, but still you are there. If I tell you, your students are there waiting at home, and when the college will open and when you will come to KT University, I'll show you a room, classroom. I'll tell, see, you are in the classroom. Suddenly, your mind,
Students, now Zoom timing is get over.
Yes, ma'am.
Then, and next class we will say.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
attendance.
attendance all present.
Attendance.
All
Already I have taken your attendance. Huh?
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.